Good morning, welcome back to the weekly code. This is 2nd April 2023, 9:17 am, and if you've clicked on this video watching the thumbnail and expecting it something to be related to Blender and geometry nodes, I'm gonna give that value to you first off and then go about doing my usual thing. The thing that I want to talk about is if you confront a problem for long enough, a solution appears. Not the very first thing I've done in geometry nodes by myself using logic and math and understanding of how things are working, but still this is something I'm super proud of. So what I made is something very simple, like you can see by the number of nodes here that it is so simple, but still I am proud of it. So basically what this allows you to do is you can scale your instances from the bottom to the top, kind of like how you apply scale to objects in After Effects or layers in After Effects, and then you can just offset it manually or using Rift or something. And this is the kind of thing where, let's say for example, cubic worlds, right? We have this thing where we use an add-on which just copies your keyframes from one object to all the other objects in the scene, and then you can displace it depending on a value. But the problem there is you have keyframes, so you are basically bound to the timeline. If you want to shift things here and there, you're basically stuck. And the second thing is you have to do it to individual objects, but in this case I have a stack of these things, so I want to do it to instances. I'll keep this starting structure. So we have a group output, we have an instance on points node where we are instancing a collection on a mesh line. So if I just view this mesh line, it's just a simple mesh line. I have a count of 10 and z is 1 meter offset. Okay, so this is supposed to be 0 to 1 meter and 10 points in between, which you can see here in your spreadsheet. So position 0 0, as in there is 1 point here at the bottom as well. And this here is a podium. Is this basically this beveled kind of shape, which importantly has its origin at the very bottom. So over here at the world origin. Okay, that's important because if you don't do it that way, and if the origin is in the center of the geometry, you'll have to do some set position on the geometry and shift it up or down, however, to make sure that these stack up perfectly. Now what I want to do is, the logic is very simple. As I move up the stack, I wanted to scale up from the bottom. Okay, now the simplest way to do that is you have your instance on points and you have the scale here. If you take the scale and try to bring it down, all of them together, you'll see that they are scaling as if anchor point or the origin is in the center of each individual instance, and this is definitely not the kind of effect we're looking for. So what we want to do is, in scale, I'm going to drag this out and say position. So basically what I'm trying to say here is, as I go up the position of these instances, so the position of these instances is this 0 1, as in going up the position, I want to affect the scale. So I'm just going to add a math node in between. I'm going to call it multiply. Okay, so this is going to be our control. Now what is happening is, as I am going up from 0, you see that the scale is going up. Now there are two problems here. One is the obvious problem that it is scaling up from the top as we come down, because if you look at the spreadsheet here, as I'm increasing the multiplication value, the bottom one, the 9th one, becomes 1 first, and the ones at the top become 1. Like this one hasn't even become 1 yet, so I don't know when it's gonna become 1. The second problem, it is going beyond its original scale. We don't want that to happen. So first let's fix the going beyond original scale problem, right? For that we use the map range node. To this multiplication we do a map range, saying that map range value, while you go from 0 to 10, you should go from 0 to 1. Okay, so if I make this 0 to 10, if you go beyond 10, it's not gonna exceed 1. So if you see, the bottom one is gonna go and stop at 1. But again, the problem that remains is that it's scaling from the top and then coming down. And now that I think about it, it's actually pretty straightforward to just reverse the operation, but it took me a while to figure out like how I could do that. Let's make it 5, so it's halfway and we can see what is happening. Okay, now I want to reverse this. So the way you reverse that is, you're going to subtract 1 from the total number of these things you have here. Okay, I forgot to mention there is one more problem here, and that problem is you have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 instances, but the first instance, which was 0 at position 0 0 0, is becoming scale of 0 0 0, because anything multiplied by 0 is going to be 0. So the way we fix that is we take a math node and set it to add, and you just add 1 to the position. So now instead of going from 0 to 9, your position is going from, because we've added 1 to the position itself, is going from 1 to 10. Mute this node, you will see that we have the bottom instance as well. So now we have the 10 stacks the way we want them to. As I said, if I want to reverse this operation, I'm just going to subtract the position. So after we've added 1, I'm going to subtract 1 from what? The total number of floors in this case, or stack count. So I'm going to take this out into a value node just so I can control it independently, and I'm going to subtract 1 from this value going into your multiplication. So now, okay, this is also important, that the order in which you plug these is determines whether or not things will happen the way you want them to. So now we've basically reversed the order of things happening. If you look at the spreadsheet, few take very little time to come to where it should, and then few take a little longer. So what I can do is I can add a division here and divide it by, let's say, 5 longer to happen. Okay, that's one thing. Now another thing I discovered is if you want to change the influence, like the graph of this, so you just play with the minimum value. So if I take the minimum value up, and if I take it to 5, which is half of the count, or if I take it a little more than that, you'll see that the graph is changing, as in this graph, the way this is forming, that is changing. So basically you're changing the easing of the entire operation. If you keep it at 0, your instances will start scaling right from the beginning. But if you tweak it a little bit here, like let's say like this, your further instances further down are actually at 0 for a lot longer to get a more smoother sort of effect. For my original one, I just added a few, like I made it a group called scale instances, and I added these values, so ease, value, floors, collection, offset, and I want to actually mark it as an asset and put it in my geometry nodes library. Here I've done combine XYZ and separate XYZ for some reason, but now that I've discovered it's not needed pretty much. Second point here is one thing that differentiates you as a pro motion designer. So I made a video on Friday. It's not actually got anything to do with motion design, but it's got to do with sound design and the way you treat your music. So I'm just going to play this video for context. Is actually pretty simple in terms of the motion graphics and everything that is happening. The most important thing that I want you to notice in this video is the fact that this video has a start, a middle, and an end. So that is happening through the audio that is in this video. So I got this one soundtrack from Motion Array, which worked, and then I made like 5 to 6 mix downs of this just to get these single strands, because I knew that on my timeline I know that there are 3 parts. One is the beginning, then one is the middle, where we say introducing your packaging, before which I have that drum roll part happening, and then the third part is the end. So the way you do that is, for the beginning, of course, you just use the beginning of the audio because it's looking good, that there's like a nice kind of playful vocal to it. In the middle, you use the highest part of the audio, like the music is going high, the beats are the highest, it's kind of like the hook of the song, and towards the end you use the end of the song. It's actually pretty straightforward. In order for it to look seamless, you have to take them and you have to blend them in so that they feel, you have to blend them in so they feel like kind of thing here. So yeah, that's the only thing. I don't know if it's coming across the way it should. The second point is YouTube video dilemma, beginner AE course. So last week's video, I said that surely by Thursday I will have my video on the channel again, and I failed. I could not deliver to that. Just this morning I was thinking about the fact that instead of going, of course I'm going to put that video out, I've spent so much time and effort into it, I could make a 7-part video series where I just try explaining motion design, motion graphic in After Effects like a beginner course. Up until now, I was stuck about the point that why do I make another tutorial series, because there are so many beginner series out there. Why add one more, right? They're in Hindi as well, so that also doesn't hold up as an argument. But today in the morning I got an answer, or I think yesterday I got an answer, that I can make that course tailored to somebody who wants to get a job, maybe a freelance gig or a job as a motion designer working in an agency. So exactly the kind of work that I do. Let's say there is an intern, which there is, who is joining very soon, in my team, and that in turn doesn't know anything about After Effects or motion design in After Effects, how would I train that person to a point that they can work on any motion graphic design video that comes as part of their work in the agency? So that is a very tailored kind of content. I don't see anyone else having done it that way. So I got my answer to why I need to make a beginner series, and now I have to just work on making the beginner series. That's my mindset as of now. Third point is 1 week of social media. So last week's Thursday, so it's been over a week now that I've been off Instagram. I haven't checked who is doing what where. And to be honest, I feel very light. I feel very fresh. There have been instances in the week where I felt bored. Like Carl Newport talks about the fact that boredom is a good thing because it sparks creativity. More than boredom, I think just the fact that the mind is not overloaded with useless information is very refreshing. RTX 3060 Ti, so finally, big news, we're getting the RTX 3060 Ti for 40,500 rupees, and I made like the advance payment of 20,000 yesterday, and I'll do the rest of the payment once the card is installed and everything. So I'm really looking forward to that, and all of the renders that I'm doing now in Eevee, hopefully I can start doing them in cycles. And I'm also going to download the Blender benchmark projects. It's the classroom project, and then there's a BMW project, and just try and see how long it's taking to render those frames out, because I'm going to make my scenes as optimized as possible, but I also want to actually test the card to the limit because I'm spending so much for that performance or for that rendering boost that I want in the viewport and in the final render, not to the point that it starts to burn and everything burns down. Super excited, looking forward to things there. For this character animated short that I had to make for the full-time job, I have not worked on it at all. Though throughout this week I was figuring this 3D part out, and that's where we're at. One thing of course I want to talk about is how my systems have been so well working out throughout the week. I woke up at 3:34, nothing beyond that. Today I woke up at 4. I'm just so thankful to God that this is the kind of system or organization in life that I have craved my entire life, where stick to a system so strong that now my mind and body do not want to sleep between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. Just want to get up, do the Amrit Vela part, do all the necessary things that have to be done, and then take a nap. Do how much ever you want to extend it to, that's all right. But you get the first thing done in the morning, which basically defines your entire day. And if you don't have that thing, your entire day just falls apart no matter how much work you do in the day later on. And systems to the point that every single day I'm going to the gym and working out, and I can see a lot of visual changes in my body. Also creatine, I think it's been over a month that I've been taking creatine, and I've been seeing real changes in the body. I don't know if it's coming through here. I don't know why every time I try to take my body comparison, I'm always looking at biceps, because apparently biceps is the least that I focus on in my workouts. It's always the compound moves. I'll probably do a video where I do a before after of before taking creatine. I have videos, and after taking like for a month or so. I'm too tired right now to do that. The point I want to communicate across is that I can visually see changes in my body, to the point that when I'm wearing a t-shirt, I can see that t-shirt is filling up and beautiful. Everything is working out amazing. 3:15 a.m. I recently get some very brief aromatic experiences during the part where just a few moments I get a fragrance so pleasant I cannot describe, but at the moment the mind tries to catch hold of it, it vanishes. I've been eating a lot of Maggi this week. That's probably not a good thing to do. And the entire day trying to figure very basic thing in GeoNodes. I haven't figured it yet, but I'm sure it will at some point. Other than that, made and uploaded 3 episodes. So yeah, apart from that, throughout this week I also uploaded and made a bunch of episodes for Dad's work. So all in all, sums up to be a very nice week. On that note, thank you so much for being in the khud. I will catch you next week. Peace.